Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're watching from. I'm glad you're here. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer, and I want to answer your questions today about winning asylum in America. Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Hello, hello. Good to see you here. Good morning, good afternoon over on TikTok. Yankee, hey, glad to see you there. How are you? Instagram, we got YouTube in the house. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Brian Manning. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. And my law firm, it's called Political Asylum Lawyers. And we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's what we do all day, every day is asylum. Look, my law firm doesn't do family-based immigration. We don't do employment-based immigration or investments. We don't do any of that stuff. We just do asylum. We focus on asylum. We're laser focused on asylum. And that's what I'm here to do today is answer your questions about winning asylum in the United States. But first, before you start dropping those questions in the comments, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Love to see where you guys are at, where you're joining us from in this community of asylum seekers that we're building to be supportive of each other. I know that you guys get a lot of help from each other in addition to just the stuff that I'm telling you from my perspective as a lawyer and former asylum officer. I know that the things that you guys are sharing with each other in the chat, but also in DMs and whatnot, is extremely helpful, and you find it really supportive because you guys have told me that. So that's amazing. Keep up that awesome work. Don Bays, good morning on TikTok. Good morning. How are you? Hello, I'm in California, says Known to. Nice. Good to see you over in CA. We got, oh, Yankees from Ethiopia. Okay, nice. Harig says from Maryland. Nice. Ram, good to see you. Thanks for the follow. If you haven't followed yet on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, go ahead and do that. YouTube, subscribe. All right. Oh, speaking of YouTube, guys, before I get into the question and answers, I want you to know if you're watching this on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube is where I've got all my best stuff. Okay. YouTube is where I've got really detailed tutorials and trainings, videos that are going to help you that I think you need to see. So great to watch this live, this show on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but TikTok. But if you really want to benefit from the stuff that I've shared for completely free, go to YouTube. Search for Political Asylum Lawyers. That's the name of our YouTube channel, Political Asylum Lawyers. Okay. All right. Hello, hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. California, nice. Don Bass is from New York, NYC. Oh, Zach Forex, hello from Oklahoma. Nice. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I live in Texas now. My law firm is based in Texas, but I'm from Oklahoma. I was born in Oklahoma City and grew up in Edmond, a suburb of Oklahoma City. Zach Forex. Where are you at, Zach? What city in Oklahoma are you in? Let me know. I'm curious. And most of my family's still there. So, yeah. I went to college. I went to university in Oklahoma. Go there all the time now to visit family. So, yeah, cool. Where at, Zach? Let me know. From Virginia, says Prabhat. Nice. I love Virginia. I've spent time in Virginia like on 3 different occasions. I lived in Northern Virginia near DC when I was a diplomat, when I was there for like long-term training stints. I love it up there. I love Northern Virginia. I love DC. All right. Known to says reschedule my interview, and I'm waiting for my new asylum interview date. Nice. Hopefully it'll be soon. Good. There's a good chance it will be soon. Known to. I hope you're ready. I hope you got an asylum lawyer. I hope that you've practiced. I hope you've done a mock interview, a full scale practice interview, because that's what that's the number one thing you can do to increase your chances for success. Right. Who we got? Can you please help me with my asylum? Says Resi. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. We have to talk. You'd have to talk with one of my teammates. We want to get to know you. We want to get to understand your circumstances, your case, understand the facts, and analyze your case and tell you whether we think we're in a position to help you. Okay. If we are, we're going to explain exactly how we would do it, like what the concrete steps are that we would take to give you the best possible chance to win your case. But it all starts with a consultation. Okay. And you schedule that consultation here at winasylum.com. 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 All right. WINASYLUM.com to schedule the consultation. All right. Hey, Brian, love your content, says Kwang. Nice. Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Very, very nice of you. Good. For those of you who just joined, we're live on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, all over the place. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. And I want to know what questions you have about winning asylum in America. So let me know in the comments. What do you want to know? What questions do you have about winning asylum in America? Let me know. Start leaving those questions. All right, from Denver, says Ruta. Nice. Denver's nice. Love it up there. Uh, can an FGM case get denied at court even if you present a medical report? Wants to know harder. Yeah. So look, the question is this. If you've got good evidence that backs up what you're saying, and you've got what seems to be a strong case of where you can show really serious past persecution, and it's for something that usually is considered to be persecution on account of a protected characteristic. With all that working in your favor, is it still possible to lose your asylum case? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely, including for things like FGM, with even with evidence that the medical reports saying that you've gone through it. Yes, it's still possible, 100% still possible, and it still happens all the time. There's lots of reasons why good, deserving cases get denied. Probably the most common, I think, is that there's a lot of asylum officers and judges who are just anti-immigrant, and they're just looking for an excuse to deny people, and they'll find little so-called inconsistencies or perceived inconsistencies in your testimony or among your documents, and therefore have an excuse to say you're not credible. And therefore, if you're not credible, they can't believe your testimony, and therefore you don't meet the standards for asylum. So that's yeah, the answer is absolutely you can still lose. You got to do a great job presenting your case on paper, but even more importantly, you got to do a great job preparing for your interview or hearing, so that you can tell your story in a clear, convincing way and not have these errors, these problems come up like inconsistencies that ruin so many good cases. All right. And by the way, Hareg, if you've been through that, if you've been through FGM, I'm very sorry to hear that. That's that's really tough. I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope you're getting the help that you need to recover from that. Okay. Do I? All right, Juan, you gotta stop. You gotta stop spamming the chat, or you're gonna get blocked. And I'm not gonna answer you. I'm not gonna answer a question if you're spamming the chat a billion times. All right. What do we got? Do I have a chance of winning my asylum with only an affidavit from police as evidence? None two wants to know. The question is this. What are your chances to win your asylum case if you've only got, let's say, like one piece of evidence, one document that kind of backs up what you're saying in your story? Look, let me start off by saying that you don't need any evidence. You don't need evidence to win your case. Sure, it can help. It's good if you have evidence, documents that back up what you're saying and help show the officer the facts of your case, but it's not required. You can win asylum without any evidence whatsoever. You can win based just off of your testimony, what you say on the day of your asylum interview. So that's good news, right? But you got to understand, you got to do a great job with your testimony. You got to do even if you have a lot of evidence, even if you have lots of good evidence, you still have to do a great job with your testimony in your interview, because the testimony, what you say on the day of your interview, is way more important. It's way more important than your evidence. It's way more important than what you said in your application. It's way more important than what you said in your declaration. It's more important than what your lawyer writes in your legal brief. It's more important than having a lawyer with you on the day of your interview. By far, the most important thing is what you say during your interview. And that means the most important thing, the highest impact thing that you can do to maximize your chances for success is to practice, is to prepare for your interview, to prepare for your testimony. Okay. That's the number one thing. And we're helping people do that. We help all of our clients do that, but we're also now helping people that are not hiring us, that didn't hire us for like their full representation, but rather they just want help with the preparation for the interview or the hearing, because that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. And we're helping people with this through a standalone service called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. And if you want to learn all about this, what it entails, what it's like, how I think it can help you, go to asylumprep.com. Okay, asylumprep.com is where you can find this information. about this service called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience, or we call it the Experience for short. Okay, go to asylumprep.com to learn all about that. All right, asylumprep.com. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? Let me know. I'm Brian Manning, former asylum officer turned asylum lawyer, and now my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Doesn't matter where you live. Look, so we're based in Texas, but it doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter where we're based. Doesn't matter where you are, because we can help you anywhere in the United States. We have lawyers all over the country. All right. Excuse me. I shouldn't say we have lawyers all over the country. We help people all over the country. We have lawyers in several different places, several states, but we help people all over the country. Doesn't matter where you are. Okay. All right. Ruda says, you're our lawyer and we're waiting for an interview date. Nice. Ruda, thank you for trusting us with your case, for entrusting this case to us. Because look, we understand it's a huge decision. Who you choose to be your asylum lawyer is a massively important decision. Look, we're talking about your case. Which means we're talking about your safety, your security. We're talking about your future, the life that you want to build in America. The stakes are high. The stakes are huge. And so, who you choose as a lawyer to help you with this super, super important thing is a massively important decision. So, we take it seriously. We recognize the gravity of it. We appreciate you putting your trust in us. And we're thankful for the opportunity to serve you. All right. Being Fatima says, I had my interview yesterday, waiting for my decision. Nice. How did it go? Being Fatima, tell us about it. Tell us how long did it last, and was it hard? Tell us about it, Fatima. And where was it? What office? Give us the deets, Fatima. Give us the tea. Tell us more. What flag is that, Fatima? It's like my monitor's far away from me. And it's kind of hard to see that tiny. I'm trying to think what country has a green in their flag. Well, a lot of countries have green in their flag, but with that name, Fatima, I'm gonna say. Actually, I'm not gonna guess. East Africa. Um, is that Tanzania? Where are you from, Fatima? Tell me everything. Tell me everything, Fatima. All right. We got Prabhat says on TikTok, thank you so much for your entire video you post on social sites, which helps us a lot. Thank you. You're very welcome, Prabhat. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Jonathan wants to know, does having an active warrant due to your political involvement, is that a good piece of evidence? So the question is this. Would having a warrant issued and pending for your arrest be helpful for your case as evidence? Well, look, yeah, if the case is built around your fear that the government is going to come after you and unjustly prosecute and imprison you because of your political opinion or your race, religion, nationality, or membership in a particular social group, then yeah, the fact that there's that you can point to or show an arrest warrant for you, that's good. Yeah, that's definitely helpful for your case. It's good evidence. So you want to use that if you can get that. You need to be ready to explain why it's illegitimate, why the charge in it is trumped up, or why it's unlawful, and really they're really going after you for your political opinion, or whatever the case may be, whatever the protected ground is. But look, it's not by itself going to win you the case. Your testimony, what you say on the day of your interview, is far more important than that piece of evidence or any piece of evidence. Okay, so great that you've got evidence, but your focus should be on practicing and preparing for your interview, because that's the most important thing. All right. Nice. Do you only advise on asylum? The question is this. So at my law firm, do we just help people with asylum, or is there other stuff? Are there other cases we could help you with in the immigration world? Look, really the only other thing that we do is green card cases, but only when it's based on asylum, only when the person has won asylum and now they're applying for a green card. We don't do green cards based on marriage. We don't do it based on employment. We don't do it based on investment. None of that, or any other family relationships. We focus on asylum. Look, I think that when you need a complicated problem solved, you should go to the professional, the expert who spends all day, every day thinking about and working on that particular problem, which is to say they're in it every day. They're practicing in this area every day. It's just like, I analogize it to the medical world, right? If you have a serious heart condition, you go to your general sort of family doctor to start with, but they don't treat you for a very serious heart condition. What do? They say you need to go see an expert, not just any expert, not a neurologist, not whatever other kinds of doctors. You need to see a very specific kind of doctor who focuses on this issue, the heart issue, a cardiologist, someone who does that all day, every day for their job. That's how it is with immigration, I think. I think if you need asylum, we're the people you should talk to because that's what we do all day, every day. And I think we're good at it and we care and we work hard. But for other stuff, for family-based immigration, I recommend that you talk with a lawyer who focuses on that. For employment-based immigration, I recommend that you talk with a lawyer who focuses on that. Go to the expert who works every day, all day on solving the exact problem that you need solved. All right. Noe Ramirez, does that work? Good. Hakong, sorry for the mispronunciation, wants to know. Question, once they send out the notice for the interview, how far out do they usually set the date? Good question. The question is this. So how much advance notice do you get before your asylum interview? So, you're going to receive a letter, right? Whether if you applied by mail, you're going to receive a physical letter in the mail. If you applied online through your My USCIS account, it's going to be updated to that account. And you're going to get an email notification about it. And so how long do you get between getting that letter or notice and the day of your actual interview? Look, it varies, but usually it's between like 7 or 8 days and maybe a month, okay? On average, it's probably about 2 weeks. But sometimes it's shorter, like 7 days. Sometimes it's longer, like a month, okay? But because it could be a short time, like 7 days, you got to be ready. For people that are applying right now, you need to understand most people are getting their interviews right away. Okay, most people are getting their interviews within 2 months of applying. So you got to be ready. I hope that if you've applied, you are working with an asylum lawyer who's already working on your paperwork, all the supporting documents they're going to submit for your case. And I hope that they're planning to do a full-scale practice interview with you, or what we call a mock interview, because that's the best possible way that you can prepare yourself. That's the best way to maximize your chances for success. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? That's what I'm here to do, is answer your questions about that. I'm Brian Manning, former asylum officer turned asylum lawyer. And my law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers, and we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Hello, Brian. Thank you for your, service. You're welcome. Sean Parvis, my pleasure. I'm married to a U.S. citizen and we have a child together. I closed my asylum case administratively in July 2025 because my I-45 has been pending since 2022, but there's been no progress. Should I refile the I-45, or what do you suggest is the best course of action? Sean, I think it was a mistake to close your asylum case. Well, Sean, is it in immigration court or with the asylum office, your case? Let me know. Let me know. Okay. Sean, look, the bottom line is, I can still answer your question without knowing that. I want to know that to give you more input, but I can answer it without that, because I can tell you, if you said you filed what, 2022 for your green card, you should sue in a mandamus lawsuit. It shouldn't take 3 years to adjudicate that application. You're in a very good position to have success with a mandamus lawsuit. So, Sean, we should talk about that. If you want to move your case forward, if you want to get that I-45 adjudicated, you're in a very good position to have success with a lawsuit where we sue the government to force them to give you, to adjudicate that, to give you a decision, okay? But we should talk through it to make sure you understand it all, and make sure that, we need to get some more information to make sure that we think that's a good idea. So we should talk in the context of an asylum strategy session. What is that? Even if it's not just for asylum, Sean, if it's for a mandamus lawsuit for your green card case, we still do a strategy session or a consultation. In a consultation, we want to get to know you. We want to understand your situation and analyze it and tell you whether we think we can help you. Okay. If we do think we can help you, we're going to tell you how. We're going to set forth like exactly what the concrete steps are that we're going to take to give you the best possible chance of winning your case. So if you want to schedule a consultation, go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's winasylum.com. Okay. Winasylum.com. Brian, Roman says, I'm planning to attend my interview with USCIS without lawyer's assistance. Should I write a legal brief by myself? Probably not. The question is this. Let's say you've decided you're not going to use a lawyer for your case. You're not going to take a lawyer with you to your interview, your asylum interview. Should you, though, write a legal brief yourself? Should you try to write out sort of an explanation of how you meet the legal requirements in the form of a legal brief? No, I don't. No, I don't think so. No. Even if you're like a lawyer back in your home country and you're really confident that you know what you're doing and you think you can do a pretty good job, no. I think asylum officers, when they see that it's written by the applicant, they're just like, nope, not even going to look at it, or they're not going to take it seriously if they even look at it. So I don't think it'll be helpful to write a legal brief, probably. So I wouldn't do that. But look, if you're thinking, I don't want to hire a lawyer because I don't know how much value it will add, or I don't have the money, I get that. That's completely understandable. But what I can tell you is that there's something more important that you can do than hiring a lawyer to actually do the brief for you or to represent you during the hearing, and that's preparation. Okay, Roman, the most important thing you can do, the biggest step you can take to really help yourself, the biggest lever you can pull to increase your chances for success is the preparation. Okay, we're offering a special package, Roman. I think you might be interested in this. Of just preparation. If you don't have the money or the time, or for some other reason don't want to hire a lawyer for full scope representation, this is exactly the kind of thing that you might be interested in if you still want to do something to increase your chances for success. Because this is in my opinion, the best thing you could do. The most helpful thing that you can do is the preparation. We offer this as a standalone service. There's something called the mock asylum interview experience, or we call it the experience for short. And I think this is the best thing you can do to prepare for your case, for your interview. So go to asylumprep.com to learn all about that, okay? Stephen wants to know, if you apply for a green card right after asylum approval, wouldn't it get denied? Good question. The question is this. So if you apply for your green card based on your approved asylum case, but you do that right away, you win asylum, and then let's say a few days or a week or two or a month later, you go ahead and submit that green card application. Is it going to get denied because you haven't been in the United States for a full year after winning your asylum case? The answer is, I don't think so. We're doing it right now and it's not getting denied. We've never had one denied. Here's the thing. It's true that USCIS cannot approve your green card application until you've been here for 1 year after winning asylum. But you can apply now. In fact, USCIS made this announcement, I don't know, a year or two ago, saying, oh, actually now you can apply whenever you want. You can apply right after winning asylum. And so, but the question is, why would you do that? Why, if you can't get approved until it's been at least a year after winning asylum, why would you want to send that application now, right after winning asylum? It's because you get in the queue. You get in the line because there's a backlog of these cases. It's taking, last time I checked, it was taking USCIS something like 18 months to get to an application and look at it. So the idea is, if you apply now, right after winning asylum, you get in that line. 18 months from now, they'll pick it up, and it's true. They'll say, oh, we don't see evidence that you've been here for a year after winning asylum because you applied before you reached that year, right? So you couldn't have evidence that you've been here for a year post-asylum. But they'll send you a request for evidence, an RFE, where they say, hey, send us evidence that shows that you've been here for at least a year after winning asylum. And then you do that, and they can grant the case. So then you're getting your application adjudicated, let's say 18 months from now, as opposed to if you wait the full year and then you apply, then you're just then a year from now getting in the queue. You're just then getting in the line. And who knows what the processing time will be. It might be 18 months from that time. It might be less, but it could be more. So the benefit of filing now is that you're getting in the queue and probably moving your whole process up and making it go faster, which is a good thing. You want to move as quickly as you can from asylum to permanent residency, and you want to move as quickly as you can from permanent residency to U.S. citizenship, the most stable and beneficial form of status that you can possibly have. Interesting. If someone has a pending affirmative asylum case in the U.S., can they apply for permanent residency in another country like Canada while waiting for their interview? Or would that affect their asylum case? Good question. The question is this. While you're waiting for your asylum case to go through in the United States, can you apply for permanent residency somewhere else, like Canada, for example, or would doing so negatively affect your U.S. asylum case? Good question. I don't look. It wouldn't definitely would not. It would not be like an automatic denial of your U.S. asylum case. There's, in fact, I don't think there's any. I don't think it would be a negative factor in any kind of formal way at all. Okay, the fact that you've applied for permanent residency somewhere else, even if you get it, even if you're approved for permanent residency somewhere else, you wouldn't be banned from getting asylum in the United States because of that, unless you were to leave the U.S., go to that country, be physically present there while you have permanent residency, and then come back to the U.S. and keep pursuing your asylum case. Then you'd be barred because of what's called firm resettlement. But just applying for and even getting the permanent residency will not formally keep you from getting asylum in the United States. I say formally because when the asylum officer learns this, it probably will have a negative impact, like a negative psychological impact. They can't point to it as a reason for denying you, but it could hurt a little bit, I think, at least subconsciously or actively psychologically in the officer's mind. Naom says, "Hey, Brian. Hey, Naom. Good to see you. Guillermo, glad you're here. Personal master's research, can it be used to support the situation in the country?" I'm not sure what you mean by that, Louis. Like you did your own research about the conditions in your country and you're wondering whether you can use it as in support of your asylum case. Well, look, I mean, you can, um, I mean, no, if it's like, oh, I went and visited, and I went to this region and I interviewed people and they told me this, therefore my assessment of the situation is the following. No, that will not help. If you're talking about you sort of collated or you pulled together research from credible sources like news outlets or nonprofit organizations or government agencies, if you pull that together and then that's what you're submitting, yeah, that can help. But um, your actual own research, no, I don't think that will help. All right. Khan wants to know, can the judge request an expert testimony to understand the country conditions, or do I have to do it? How does that work? Good question. The question is this. How does it work if you think it might be helpful to have an expert testify about conditions in your country, have expert testimony at your immigration court hearing? Do you have to provide that yourself or find the expert and have them come? Or does the judge do it, or what? So yeah, the court will not do it on its own. If you want to have an expert testify, you would need to find that expert and pay them and arrange for them to testify. They would be able to testify at your what's called your individual hearing, your main hearing, your merits hearing. But also they should submit you should submit for them ahead of time in writing their written opinion and proof of their credentials, like their curriculum vitae, their resume. But yeah, so it's up to you. The judge will not do it for you. All right. Can you tell the average cost of a lawyer after losing a USCIS interview? What are the chances interview office versus in the court? Mugdog wants to know. Mugdog, we charge in my office. We charge $15,000 for representation in immigration court after someone has had an interview at the asylum office and got a negative decision and been put in deportation proceedings. We charge $15,000, but there's like a payment plan available. You don't have to pay all that at once. Nobody says, "Hey Brian, how did you become such a wise person / lawyer?" Smiley face. Ah, very kind of you. Nobody. Thank you for the compliment. Um, Look, I've been doing asylum for a while. I worked for 11 years for the government's two main agencies for refugee and asylum matters. I did thousands of interviews as an immigration officer. I was an asylum officer. I've had this law firm now for over 5.5 years. We've had a lot of clients. We've seen a lot of different situations. So you learn a lot throughout all that. All right. Rudy says, can I apply for affirmative asylum if I came to the U.S. as a child beaten in another country? brought in illegally, then TPS continuously for 20 years, no criminal history, married to a U.S. citizen and USC children. Maybe Rudy, probably the I think you should talk. We would be happy to talk with you about asylum. I think you should also talk with an immigration lawyer who focuses on family-based immigration, because often the marriage to a U.S. citizen is the cleanest, best route to get status here. Better, it's easier than asylum usually. Like the approval rates are higher for a marriage-based green card case than for asylum. So I think you should talk with someone about that. But for asylum, what I would want to know is, when did you get TPS? Did you get it before you turned 18? Um, if you got TPS before you turned 18, then you would almost certainly be able to get around the 1 year filing deadline. Because that's the like most immediate concern, given that you've been here for many years, is this issue of the 1 year filing deadline, which says that you normally need to apply. If you want to apply for asylum, you need to do so in your first year in the United States. So that's a challenge. But if you got TPS before you turned 18 and you've had it ever since, you would probably qualify for an exception to the 1 year filing deadline called, it falls into the category of extraordinary circumstances, and it's what's called maintenance of status. So you might be able to get around that, and then but substantive to get around the 1 year filing deadline. But substantively speaking, I'm not sure what you're afraid of. Why you fear being harmed in your country. So we need to talk about that. But if you were abused as a child, that can give rise to a viable asylum claim. So I guess the short answer is, there could be a claim there. There could be something there. I think you should talk with a family immigration lawyer who focuses on family to see if they think that you getting a green card through your U.S. citizen spouse makes sense to apply for. But I do think that there may be an asylum case there. So we should talk. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Again, winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. All right. Nahum says, seeking asylum because of persecution from the government, but since I'm a doctor myself, I have been self-treating and had no actual documentation of physical or psychological harm. Would that be a problem? Good question. The question is this: can you win asylum if you've been through some really bad things? You've had physical harm and psychological harm in your country, but you don't have proof of it. You don't have any documents that show it. You don't have any medical records. You don't have any photos showing the harm. Is it possible to win under these circumstances? Yeah, it is. Look, of course, having evidence is good. It can help your case if it backs up what you're saying and helps you show the officer the things they need to understand to see that you meet the eligibility requirements. Of course, evidence is good, but you can win without evidence. You can win with zero evidence as long as your testimony is detailed, consistent, and plausible. That's the legal standard that the officer is assessing. They're looking to. They're analyzing. Is your testimony during your interview detailed, consistent, and plausible? I mean, look, in a case where you don't have any evidence, where you have very, very little evidence, like the burden is higher. I mean, you've got to do an even better job with your testimony. But even if you have evidence or you have good evidence, your testimony, what you say in your interview, is still way more important. It's by far the most important part of your case. And you can prepare for that. Okay, you can improve your testimony by practicing, okay, by studying and practicing and preparing. And we're offering now a special kind of standalone package where even if you don't want to hire us to like actually be your lawyers for like a full scale representation, if you want to get our help with the most important part of your case, the number one most important thing you can do to increase your chances for success, we're offering now a special service to do just that, to help with the preparation. It's called the mock asylum interview experience, and you can read all about it at asylumprep.com. It's in fact, let's see. Let me see if I can share my screen to show you what this looks like. It's a new webpage I put up a few weeks ago that looks like this. Is that showing? There it is. Yep. Now we lost me, right? The mock asylum interview experience is, where did I go? Yeah, anyway, it's a webpage at asylumprep.com that you can check out, all about the mock asylum interview experience, our preparation service. All right. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? For those of you who just joined recently, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as an asylum lawyer, you see, my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Doesn't matter where you live, we help people all over. We're based in Texas, but it doesn't matter. We help people all over the United States. All right. Jot Jimbo says, I have a hearing on September 20th in EOIR. They're showing a visiting judge in New Orleans court. Can you explain that, please? The question is this. What does it mean if you see on the immigration court website that your hearing is going to be done with a visiting judge? It basically means they don't know who it's going to be yet. It's not going to be a judge that is normally working out of that court, but rather it's a visiting judge in the sense that it's someone that they're going to bring in from another court for like that particular day, or maybe they're there for a couple of weeks or something, or maybe they're actually doing it remotely by video conference. But it's going to be someone who's just not normally at that court, and it's therefore known as a visiting judge. But they don't know the identity; they haven't determined probably the identity exactly who it's going to be yet. They just know it's going to be someone that's going to be a visiting judge. So it doesn't really mean anything for your preparation, or you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to do anything in light of this. It's kind of a downside in the fact that in the sense that you can't look at their approval rate. You can't look up their approval rate because you don't know who the judge is, but there's really no other downside. So try not to worry about it. Okay. Rudy says, yes, TPS before I turned 18. Then yeah, I mean, Rudy, it makes sense to talk, I think. Yeah, Mug Dog said, I had an interview. I was surprised the officer was not aware of the conditions in my country, including the situation of national minorities and other serious problems documented in reports. Yeah, yeah, this raises an important question, and the question is this. So is the asylum officer in your interview going to be familiar with the conditions in your country? Maybe. Look, for countries from which they see a ton of applicants, the asylum officers are somewhat familiar with the conditions usually, like Venezuela or China. But for other countries, maybe not so much. And I know it's going to be tempting for you to want to educate the officer during your interview about the conditions in your country, but that's really not your job. They don't want you to do that. They're gonna, even if they don't know much, they're usually they're gonna cut you off and say, I didn't ask you about that. I'm going to do my own research about your country. That's my job, not yours. That's the attitude of most asylum officers. So, really, what the best thing to do is hire a lawyer to do a legal brief in which they show the officer in writing how you meet all the requirements, and they use country conditions information as part of that, and they provide it behind the legal brief, but they actually discuss it and analyze it in the brief. That's the best way to inform an officer about conditions in your country. So look, when you go into your interview, you cannot assume that they're going to know a lot about your country or know the most important things. But you also do not want to go on a long soliloquy or a long oration about the geopolitical historical context of your country. They're not really at the interview. They're not really interested in that. They want to know from you about your experiences and why you're at risk. All right. If I'm referred to court, can I change the state from Texas to Washington or California so that the case gets accepted? Louis wants to know. The question is this. If your case gets referred from the asylum office to immigration court, can you move at that stage once your case is in immigration court from one state to another to try and take advantage of a higher approval rate in the new state? Like, let's say your asylum interview is in Houston, Texas. You get referred, you get a negative decision, and your case is put in immigration court in Houston. Well, can you then move to like Northern California, say, to go and try to have your case transferred from the Houston immigration court to the San Francisco immigration court? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. There's no problem with it. As long as you actually move, I encourage it. Like, you should not lie. You shouldn't say, oh, yeah, I moved, and give them some fake address or your friend's address or whatever when you're not really living there. But if you're willing to actually move to take advantage of a higher approval rate, then I think it's definitely worth considering. Uh, all right. Nice. Can we say the interview is mainly determined by the attitude and emotion of the interviewer? It's part of it. It definitely makes a difference, but I mean, it's not just like on a whim. It's not just like, oh, I got lucky and got a nice officer, so I'm gonna win, or oh, I got unlucky. No, it's not like that. It's you you can make a huge difference in your chances for success by presenting a strong case, both in writing and more importantly by preparing and doing a good job during your interview. Okay. All right. Uh, what do you want to know about winning asylum in America? For those who've just joined recently, I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer, and my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. So, what do you want to know about winning asylum in America? All right, MK says, hello, Brian. We postponed the asylum interview with USCIS. When will the next appointment be? Good question. The question is this: if your asylum interview with USCIS gets postponed or rescheduled, how long is it going to take to actually have it? When's it going to get rescheduled? Usually it's quick. Usually it's within a month or so, like around a month. That because this is the top priority. USCIS has a list, kind of a priority schedule for how they, or a list of priorities for how they go about scheduling asylum interviews, and reschedules like this is at the top. It's first priority. So usually they get rescheduled quickly, like a month or so, but not always. Not always. Honestly, sometimes they fall through the cracks. Sometimes they could be many months later, or even years. This is one of the reasons why I think you should not postpone your interview. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes USCIS does it, and they just send you a letter without you asking, and they just say canceled, and we're going to reschedule. But oftentimes applicants do it. Applicants will say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not ready yet. I got the interview notice, but I don't feel prepared, so I'm not gonna. I don't want to do it. I want to postpone it. Can we postpone it?" I think that's a mistake. I think the sooner you have your interview, the better. And because there's risk that it might not get rescheduled for sometime in the near future, then I think it's usually not a good idea to ask to reschedule. I think you should go ahead and do it. I think you should go ahead and focus on the preparation, the practice for your interview, and do the interview. All right. Good afternoon. Okay. Uh, Weiss says, I have an assignment interview on October 9, 2025. Can you represent me? Weiss, if you schedule a consultation with us, like pretty much immediately, like in the next few days, um, yeah, we would have time to do two things. We'd have time to do the most important thing, which is the preparation, the practice. That's the most important. That's more important than us representing you during your interview. So we have time to do that. But yeah, if you schedule the consultation with us and we decide that you're eligible, like that we can support you, then we would have time, right? If you do it right now, to do both things, to do the preparation and the actual representation. But the first step is a consultation. Weiss, you schedule the consultation here at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Again, winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Okay, winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Okay. I live in Seattle right now, but planning to move to Oregon. Where would my mandamus lawsuit be? DG89291 wants to know. The question is this: will moving affect your mandamus lawsuit or where it should be filed? Or if it's already filed, does it have to like get transferred if you move from one state to another? The answer is no. It almost certainly won't affect your case. So when we file a mandamus lawsuit to force an asylum interview or to force a decision after an interview, we're sort of basing it around or we file it where the asylum office is, or we file it with the court, the federal court that has jurisdiction over the asylum office in question, not where you are. And so if you move, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really affect the lawsuit. So the good news is you can move and not really worry about it affecting your mandamus lawsuit. All right. Okay. What if your master hearing's in New York? Ever blessed? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? If your master, what if your master hearing's in New York? What do you want to know about it? Like, is it good? Is it bad? Or it's tough actually. No, sorry. Flip that. It's an interesting phenomenon. In New York, the approval rate is high in immigration court for asylum, but low at the asylum office. It's a weird dynamic. Weiss, look, hey Weiss, uh, if you think you want us to both prepare you and represent you, just go straight to schedule a consultation right now, winasylum.com, winasym.com. But if you think that you might want just the preparation, actually in both cases, go this, in any event, go also check out go check out asylumprep.com, where you can find out all about what we do to prepare people. Okay, that's at asylumprep.com. All right. God's Child wants to know, do you handle an appeal after the case has been denied? Yes. Yeah, we do appeals. We do appeals to the Board of Immigration Appeals after you get a removal order in immigration court. And we also do appeals from a negative decision from the Board of Immigration Appeals up to a federal court of appeals. We do both those kinds of appeals. Wad Yusuf says, my case has been dismissed and I didn't get the work permit. I don't know what will happen to me. So look, the question is this: what can you do if your case gets dismissed from immigration court, but you want to keep pursuing your asylum case and you want to be able to work legally? Because remember, once your case gets dismissed from court, you can't work legally. So you can apply with USCIS. You can keep pursuing your asylum claim, but you have to file an application with USCIS. If you have never had an interview before with USCIS, they're going to accept that application and they're going to give you an interview. You're going to have an affirmative asylum case with USCIS. If you had the interview with USCIS, were referred to immigration court, and then your case got dismissed, and now you're applying with USCIS, they'll accept the application, but they're not going to actually interview you. They're going to pass the application directly back to immigration court, where you're going to be in immigration court proceedings and deportation proceedings again. But you do get a chance to, fight your case there. So you should talk with an asylum lawyer before taking action on this, I think. But yeah, the good news is there is a route to still being able to pursue your asylum case, and then based on that pending asylum case, also get the work permit. Bella wants to know, if you came in the USA under the humanitarian parole, are you eligible for asylum after 2 years? Good question. The question is this: can people who came to the United States on a parole program, where they came in and they got paroled, or they had basically status for 2 years, can you apply for asylum during that time, or maybe right after that time ends, and still be okay with respect to the 1-year filing deadline? And the answer is yeah, probably so. Because look, when you come into the United States with status, including this parole status, you're probably going to be eligible for something called an extraordinary circumstances exception to the 1-year filing deadline. So what you need to know is this: if you have that for those 2 years and you apply for asylum during those 2 years, you should be fine as far as the 1-year filing deadline goes, because you have an exception. If those 2 years end such that you no longer have parole, or the government revokes your parole, you would need then to apply for asylum within a reasonable time after that parole status ends. And what's a reasonable time? 2 months would be reasonable. 3, maybe 6 months, probably not. So basically, you need to apply quickly after losing parole in order to have a decent chance of overcoming the 1-year filing deadline rule. Okay, that's how that works. All right. Nice. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? Let me know in the comments. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. So I used to be an asylum officer with the government, and I quit and I started a law firm so I could advocate for people, proactively help people try to win asylum, help deserving people, people who have a real fear of being harmed in their country, to secure their future in America through asylum. And that's what my law firm does all day, every day, is we focus on asylum. If you think you might want help with your case, then I want you to go to this website, this webpage, and schedule a consultation. It's winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Again, winasylum.com. That's where you go to schedule the consultation, so we can see if we think that we're in a position to help you. If we think that we are, then we're gonna tell you how. We're gonna set out like in detail exactly what we would do to build a strategy in your case to give you the strongest chance possible to win your case. Okay, let's go to winasylum.com and schedule the consultation. Hey, Brian, I watched your video about mandamus lawsuit for pending asylee-based green card. You encouraged to use mandamus lawsuit after 6 months. Good. Mine's been pending 14 months. Can I hire your firm? NP Network, probably. At 14 months, I think. Actually, hold on. Let me check where things stand right now on that. I'm going to Google USCIS. Actually, here. No, yeah, USCIS processing times, and I'm going to Google. I'm going to go there, verifying that you're human. I'm going to go check I-485 category based on asylum more than 1 year ago. All field offices. Look, no. The average, or the more or less the median right now, is 16 and a half months. I think in the video I said 6 months after that, whatever they say on the website is the average processing time. Okay. Which means in your case, if you get to like 22 months, then you'd be in a good position, I think, to have success with the mandamus lawsuit. Look, I'm not saying it's impossible to win right now at 14 months, but I think the chances for success are probably not very high. And in my law firm, we wouldn't take the case at 14 months in light of the current processing time, which says 16 and a half months for this kind of case. Okay. Andres Martinez says, is it normal that the asylum officer does not ask you if you want to add anything else at the end of your interview? Good question. The question is this. Is it normal for the asylum officer to fail to ask you near the end of your interview if there's anything else that you want to add? And the answer is it's not normal. They're supposed to do that. Every single officer is told you must, at the end of the interview, ask a question like, is there anything else you want to discuss? Is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to tell me? Is there anything that you want to cover that you think hasn't been covered adequately? Anything else you want to tell me? They're supposed to ask that. If they don't, it's a mistake. It's improper. But does it is it something you can use to sort of to change the decision, to sort of like appeal or help you in court? Probably not. I mean, look, if there's other things about the interview that made it really bad and a lot of errors that prejudiced you, that hurt you, then it's one of the things that I would be arguing in a motion to reconsider, which is kind of like an appeal. Most immigration lawyers don't know about this, but you can basically appeal it, even a final denial from USCIS. It's not called an appeal. It's called a motion to reconsider. It's super hard to win, very hard to win. But we won one recently, a couple of weeks ago or so. We won one, which was kind of surprising, honestly, and very pleasing. Louis wants to know, can a wife go back to the home country and the husband stays and seeks asylum? Would that bring questions at the interview? Good question. The question is this. Will the fact that your spouse has gone back to your home country negatively affect you in your asylum case? So, you're the principal applicant, you're here seeking asylum, and your spouse is here. But then your spouse leaves the United States, goes back to the home country. Does that look bad for you? Does it hurt your asylum case? I mean, it just depends. Usually no, usually not. However, if you're saying, look, I'm afraid of these certain people who have threatened my whole family many times. They say they want to harm my whole family because they don't like our religion or something. And then your wife or your husband goes back and they're fine, nothing happens to them, then that may undercut your case. The officer may say, well, look, you're telling me the people you're afraid of are going to go after your whole family. Your family went back there and nothing happened to them. This makes me doubt whether those people really want to harm you and your family, or really whether it makes me doubt whether they want to harm you because they didn't do anything to your family. So that, in that sense, it can be a negative thing in your case. But if like the thing that you fear happening to you has nothing to do with your spouse, then it probably doesn't hurt your case at all. Doesn't matter at all. Uh, where there says your location. We're based in Houston, Texas. Our address is 1923 Washington Avenue in Houston, Texas. But it doesn't matter. We help people all over the country, and we don't even meet people at that office. We do everything virtually by video conference. So it doesn't really matter where we are. We're based in Houston, Texas, but it doesn't matter. We help people all over the country. Okay. Andrea once says, I got denied entry to my home country, Nicaragua. Besides my political persecution there, is this a strong situation to win asylum? It helps. I'm sorry to hear that. First of all, Andrea, it helps. It's a thing that we would point to in support of your claim. By itself, like the just getting banned from your home country actually does not is not something that you would get asylum because of. But it's one of the things that we can point to show that you're at grave risk, and that you've been harmed. That's a form of harming you as well. You can schedule, Andrea, we should talk, okay? You can schedule a consultation at winasylum.com o en asiloahora.com. Asiloahora.com. Tenemos un canal en español, Andrea, en YouTube que se llama Asilo Aprobado. Okay, en YouTube, Asilo Aprobado. All right. That's it for today, guys. I'm Brian Manning, asylum lawyer. Used to be an asylum officer, but now as an asylum lawyer. My law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. If you think you might want help, we'd love to talk with you. We want to get to know you. We want to get to understand your situation, tell you whether we think we're in a position to help you. If so, we'll explain exactly how in detail. And you can schedule the consultation with us at winasylum.com. Go to WINASYLUM.com. Again, winasylum.com and schedule that consultation now. Okay, do it now. We want to talk. We want to talk. Do it. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks. Have a great day. And we're going to be on live tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow it should be at 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time, which is 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you, and truly, as always, it really is an honor and a pleasure to support you in your asylum